Good morning. It's 10 a.m. and I'd like to call to order the teleconference meeting of the Board of Directors of Friday, December 17th, 2021. Please note this meeting is being recorded. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, and good morning again, everyone. Starting with Director Arnold. Director Arnold, doing roll call.
Here.
Thank you. Director Conroy. Absent. Director Fredericks.
Here.
Director Garbarino.
Here.
Director Giudice.
Here.
Director Grosball.
Here.
Director Hernandez. Absent. Director Hill.
Here.
Director Maston.
Here.
Director Melgar.
Here.
Thank you. Director Rabbit.
Here.
Director Rodoni.
Here.
Director Snyder.
Here.
Director Stephanie.
Here.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Here.
First Vice President Tirio.
Here.
And President Parr.
Present.
Present. Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. It's a good group this morning. Thank you all for being here.
And I'm going to confirm staff on the line really quickly. Dennis Mulligan.
Here.
Joe Wire.
Yes.
Ava Barr-Furbish.
Present.
Kim Manolius.
Good morning.
Steve Miller.
Here. Good morning.
Mona Babauta.
Present. Good morning.
Morning. Jim Swindler.
Present.
Kelly Hopper.
Present.
Thank you. That confirms staff on the line.
All right. Thank you. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us this morning, and we appreciate your continued patience as we continue to conduct our business in this manner. As usual, I'll be asking if board members have any comments or questions on the agenda items, and if there are questions, the secretary or I will call on you accordingly. And after the discussion, we'll be taking the appropriate roll call votes. And if you aren't speaking, please remember to mute your phones to minimize the noise on today's call. And remember to unmute, which seems to be the biggest issue with us, and identify yourself when speaking. Each page of the meeting packet is numbered on the bottom right corner to make it easier to follow along. Director Hill, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning?
Thank you. Prepare yourself for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic
and
for
to the republic
stands,
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and
justice for all.
for all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to public comment under item 4, Madam Secretary, how many callers do we have on the line today who will be speaking under public comment?
Sorry about that. We have a number of callers. We actually have 24 people signed up to speak under public comment.
All right. A lot of public comment. Due to the large number of callers and in order to allow the maximum number of speakers, how about if we hold any staff responses or comments until the end of public comment? And I'd like to ask each caller to limit their comments to 2 minutes or less so we may accommodate more speakers. It appears as though I'm going to have to ask the board's indulgence and vote to extend the time. If we have 24 people and they're each 2 minutes, it will be longer than our 30-minute allotment. May I have a motion to extend the time, please?
So moved, Director Terrio.
I'll second
Director Maston.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, we will now extend the time to accommodate all of the speakers. If they will please limit their comments to 2 minutes or less, we'd appreciate that. All right, thank you, Madam Secretary. Would you please continue with the items?
Thank you. We're going to continue on to agenda item number 4, public comment for any and all items on today's agenda. And if you wish to speak on an item, you don't have to wait for the item. Just speak to it now. Justine, I'm going to bring you into the room so you can moderate our public comment line. So Justine, in a second, please introduce our first speaker.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Our first speaker this morning is Kimberly Renee Gamboa.
Good morning, Kimberly
go
Renee.
ahead. And please use ** to unmute yourself if you've been muted. Kimberly Renee Gamboa. Okay, we'll come back. Our next speaker is Dave Rohde. Mr. Rohde.
Thank you. President Parr, board members, managers, and staff, good morning. My name is Dave Rohde. I'm with the Climate Reality Project. As 2021 draws to a close, I want to thank you. Thank you for listening to my climate presentations, and thank you for paying heed to my remarks. I am confident that each one of you in your own way is taking the climate crisis very seriously. I've tried to zero in on different topics of clean energy solutions each month while being specific about what I see as the Golden Gate Bridge District opportunities. So by way of reminding you, I've taken the initiative of doing a bullet point summary of the presentations I've made this past year, and that report should be in your packets. Next year and the year after that, and for as long as it takes to transition Golden Gate Bridge buses and ferries to net zero emissions, I'll be back. Meanwhile, I hope you all get time to enjoy your family and friends over the holidays, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rohde, and we do have the key points that you sent us.
Thank you.
I'd like to try Kimberly Renee Gamboa again. Kimberly Renee?
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Kimberly Renee Gamboa, and I am holding one of my favorite photos of my 18-year-old son, Kyle Emerson Gamboa, smiling from ear to ear in his high school class picture. Kyle jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge on September 20th, 2013 at 11:45 a.m. I wanted to thank you for your continued efforts on completing the suicide deterrent. To you and your families, the construction staff, and everyone at the Golden Gate Bridge District, I wish you the happiest of holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly Renee.
Our next speaker is Shane Weinstein. Shane, go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Parr. Can you hear me?
We can. Good morning, Shane.
Okay. Excellent. Good morning. Good morning, Board of Directors. Shane Weinstein, President of the ATU. Happy holidays to all of you. And I just wanted to thank each one of you for giving me the opportunity to meet with you over the course of the last week and a half. I do really appreciate the time. I first wanted everyone on the call to pray for a speedy recovery, both physically and mentally, for our female bus operator colleague who was severely beaten in her seat by a male subject who has yet to be caught and could potentially attempt to ride again. This only happened a few short weeks ago. This is what bus operators deal with every single day, every time they step into the seat. They're heroes that not only deserve a significant pay increase, but the ability to retire with dignity. The operators shouldn't have to force the hand of the district to help fix decades-old pension issues that they have nothing to do with ruining. The district should want to do that. The operators shouldn't have to beg and squabble for a pay raise that is rightfully theirs. The district should want to do that. The effort and the sacrifice that bus operators give on a daily basis is incredible and should be applauded. Our pension contribution is bargained. For years, this plan has been underfunded, and many of those years were under Mr. Mulligan's leadership. Remember, directors, Mr. Mulligan is who ultimately bargains the entire contract for the district, one of those parts being pension contribution. So how about listening to an actuary? Well, there was one present and reporting, but nobody was listening. That can no longer be the case. This plan needs an actuarially determined contribution right now. Mr. Mulligan, you personally signed 3 contracts to underfund this pension where you had Hanson Bridget Law Firm bargaining on your behalf. Our local, as you know, was out of a contract with no raise for 18 months from August 18 to March 2020 because we would no longer negotiate underfunding this pension any longer. Here are the facts. At the last bargaining session, the district walked away from the table because we wouldn't agree to a pay freeze. We agree that the pension needs help, and putting 7.5 into the pension isn't good enough. We are grateful. This will not be on the backs of the operators who 1 in 5 caught COVID and have been working their tails off for the district. Please reward these operators for a job well done in all aspects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein. Justine, do we have another speaker?
We do. Our next speaker is Raman Natoof. Raman, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm getting ready. My name is Raman Natoof. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead, Raman.
Okay. Peace be upon you all. I work for the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District as a bus operator since 2009. I have prepared 3 pages to read for you, but I'm gonna make it into one final page to make room for other speakers. Dear Board of Directors, I listened yesterday when you approved $1.2 million in additional salaries to add management positions. Now you will have 7 directors to manage 7 routes. That said, please give bus operators the following: better schedule with better breaks, 4% cost of living increase annually, the adequate funding to our pension, return open door policy at bus operation so we can feel safe to come to work. That said, I need to comment one more. Here we go. From page 2, I need to say that so you can put 2 and 2 together on the last part of my speech. Operators area remain exposed while the management team has isolated themselves behind locked doors and barriers, creating a new closed door policy. You really have to see it to believe it. Thank you very much. I will be trying to speak to you again in the future and continue my effort. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Our next speaker is James Lindsay. James, go ahead.
Good morning. You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Good morning, Board of Directors. My name is James Lindsay. I'm an International Vice President for the Amalgamated Transit Union, representing 13,000 operators in the state of California, with a lot of those in public sectors, as is the Golden Gate. I just want to make mention that specifically the pension plan, Golden Gate Transit is the only public pension plan in the state of California that does not listen to their actuaries. In most cases, the actuaries tell you how much contribution needs to be made, and it's made. It's negotiated on how much the employees pay and how much the employers pay. But what the actuaries tell the trustees needs to be paid is paid. Golden Gate Transit is the only district in the state of California that does not do this. I was just in a meeting 2 days ago with Siegel, who are actuaries for a ton of different plans, and I asked the actuary there what he does in this cases, and he says he gets on the table and yells and screams when this is the case. I'm sure your actuaries are doing the same thing. Mr. Mulligan, you should be listening to these actuaries. You are the chief of this entire organization. You should be ashamed of yourself for not allowing the trustees to put this actuary amount of money that is needed to the plan. I don't know why you don't do that. I don't know why the board of directors isn't allowing him to do this or making him to do this. It is the only transit district in the state of California that works this way, and that is a shame. Mr. Mulligan, you need to turn around and listen to the actuaries. I know you're going to say you're not a trustee, but you operate and you control all the trustees. You appoint all the trustees for management that are on that committee. You need to make sure that these actuaries are allowed to do their job. Happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay.
Our next speaker is Connie McFarland. Connie, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Connie McFarland. I'm a member of ATU Local 192. I'm calling because when I heard what my fellow ATU members are being offered in a contract, I was disappointed, would be putting it mildly. They put themselves at risk physically. They put their families at risk physically because they could bring them home a virus. And not only do you not want to give them a raise, you want to lower their occurrences. You want to put in place an attendance policy that is absolutely ridiculous. We're living in a time of COVID. What we were living with before no longer exists. It's COVID. You need to improve your employees' ability to take time off work in case they do feel ill, not create a system where they have to come to work regardless of their health, because if they don't, they could lose their job. I'm not sure what anybody who proposed something like that was thinking, but I would please ask that you revisit that and perhaps come up with something new that instead of being punitive, it actually works with your employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McFarland.
Our next speaker is Troy Thornton. Troy, go ahead, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Troy Thornton. I'm a bus operator for Golden Gate Transit, and I've been with the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District since March of 2015. I've also been a bus operator for 9 years prior to coming to Golden Gate Transit. I'm also a mentor in a newly reestablished mentorship program, and I'm also now stepping into the role as one of the mentor coordinators for the mentorship program as well. A few months ago, I myself and 6 other Golden Gate Transit bus operators had the opportunity to go and represent Golden Gate Transit and provide bus service for VTA in San Jose during the aftermath of the tragic mass shooting that happened and left 9 of their fellow operators and our ATU brothers deceased. When we arrived there, we were greeted with open arms and given any and whatever amenities that were needed. A few of their operators asked me if I would ever consider leaving Golden Gate Transit and come work with them permanently for better pay and better work conditions. You know what I told them? I told them no. And you know why I told them no? It's because I'm loyal almost to a fault. I'm a big proponent of going to bat for my team and even coming in on to work on my days off. But in return, I also expect my team, Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District, to go to bat for us operators when it's needed. You can't lead from behind, meaning what's the incentive to encourage drivers that come to work every day and are present and accounted for to keep coming back? I'm that driver that's working from the inside out. Like I said, I'm a mentor for the Golden Gate Transit bus operators, but as a mentor, I can only do so much with the breadcrumbs that we're being given. A fair exchange is not a robbery, but asking us operators to keep doing what we've been doing for no increase in payment compensation or better work conditions is like asking your kids or your spouse to come home every night to a house that isn't built on a solid foundation. How long does that last? It's not sustainable, and it's time to address the elephant in the room and stop trying to punish the reliable operators that actually come to work and start figuring out ways to retain and increase the number of reliable operators that you do have. Because whether you realize it or not, we are your biggest advocate. Happy holidays, everyone, and thank you very much for your time and consideration in this matter. Stay blessed.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Brenda Shepherd.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, I am ATU 1575, and I've been with your district since 1981. I'm a bus operator. I used to be a Golden Gate toll collector. My thing is I am a team player for you guys, but you guys, you're making me lose hope. I mean, I don't put my heater on because I don't know if I can pay the bill. I'm driving a car that has the engine light on just to get to work. I don't want to get a new car because I don't know if I can keep up the payments. You guys got us working many days that we used to do 80 miles. We used to drive 80 miles. Now you got us driving 120 miles within a 9-hour period, and we don't have a lot of breaks. The other night I said, I got an hour, 10-minute break. No, I was late for 40 minutes and I only had 20 minutes to go back out there and drive again in the weather and everything. Dennis Mulligan used to come in the buses, catch the buses, talk to the people, sit in there with the passengers and stuff. He doesn't do that now, and yet you're asking us as to be a dead-end passenger in an in-service bus to be in there, and you want us to keep on looking to make sure everybody got their mask on. We can't do that and drive the buses at the same time. I'm not angry. I'm really disappointed in the district right now. You got to give us some hope. You can't be doing this to people. We have to look forward to something. You guys are just making us, you're breaking us, and that's not good. And like I said, I'm not trying to be angry and disappointed, but you guys I'm really trying to be a team player. But when I find out Dennis Mulligan is giving himself a 3% raise and don't want to give us nothing, what do I have to look forward to? He doesn't come down there at the district anymore to even listen to us or anything. You got to get good with the past. I know my time is up. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Miguel Navarro Jr. Miguel?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning, Board of Directors. My name is Miguel Navarro Jr. I'm President and Business Agent of ATU Local 1574. I'm calling on behalf of my brother Shane Weinstein and his members, bus operators at Local 1575. They have been working since day one, since the pandemic happened back in March of 2020. These frontline workers have been out there providing service to the public since day one. And you guys need to treat them like heroes, not zeros. And you need to give them what is fair and equitable for the time that we're in. What they have been through is a lot, like every other transit agency. But with Golden Gate, they are losing operators on a daily basis. So I am asking you, the Board of Directors, to give them what's fair and equitable. Thank you for your time and happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro.
Our next speaker is Richard Marcantonio. Richard?
Good morning, directors. My name is Richard Marcantonio. I'm with Public Advocates in San Francisco, and for 10 years before that, I worked at Legal Aid of Marin. I am calling on you to make sure that these heroic frontline workers get the contract that they deserve. When I hear that, I hear people talking in the background. Is that, can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Go ahead.
Thank you. When I was interested to hear from one of your frontline heroes who just spoke that General Manager Mulligan, before the pandemic, used to get on the buses and talk to the operators, and that he no longer does that. So I know that the 3% raise is not hazard pay for Dennis Mulligan. And it's shocking to me that not having given your frontline workers hazard pay, the GM is also trying to deny them even a basic cost of living raise. Please negotiate a fair contract with these workers. These are the values that I know that you as a board hold, that I know that the Marin and San Francisco communities and the Santa Rosa and Sonoma County communities hold, and you should put those into practice. The Golden Gate Bridge is not your primary asset that you're custodians of. The primary asset is the workers and the riders that make your system what it is. And please preserve that and enhance it and cherish it and grow it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sultana Adams. Sultana, go ahead, please.
Hello, Sultana Adams, ATU Local 192. I'm here to stand in solidarity with my brothers and sisters from ATU 1575 and ask that you return to the table and negotiate a fair contract for these heroes of the pandemic. As bus operators, really transit workers in general, you know, we have been the lifeline for people in this pandemic. When everybody else was sheltering in place, our job was to do the exact opposite. We transported hospital workers, UPS workers, Amazon workers, grandparents that had no other option to go get their medical prescriptions or go to their doctor's appointments. And really, we service the most vulnerable people in the Bay Area, people who use public transportation because they have no other option. And we've, you know, some people have been working at home, but we've stayed working in person. And quite frankly, I've never worked harder than I've worked since the beginning of this pandemic. You know, I'm sure that I'm not the only transit worker that was assaulted towards the beginning of the pandemic, spit on by a drunk passenger. And that was my first COVID test. So I had to wait to find out if I was infected with this deadly virus while trying to process the trauma of being assaulted in an environment that I thought I had at least some semblance of safety. And for people who are working in the in safety and comfort, to insult the frontline workers by not only not offering a raise, but to also try to lower attendance occurrences to 3, who can work with that? Who has a chance of keeping a job with that? It's insulting.
Adams, can you please tie up your comments?
Yes. I just ask that you negotiate in good faith. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Wahida Johnson.
I'm Wahida Johnson, and I'm standing in solidarity with Local 192, ATU 192, and I'm standing in solidarity with ATU 1575. I think it's a real slap in the face that the GM would give itself a 3% raise, and you got the frontline workers out there, and like she said, every day we're out there, you risk being assaulted with spit, you risk being assaulted physically, you risk being bringing COVID home, different type of COVID. It's changing every day, and then it's another slap in the face to try to take away more sick time from them, and even the medical doctors don't know how to handle this. You got them, you got the workers, the frontline workers. They could take this home to their families. I'm a frontline worker myself, and even being vaccinated, I've been exposed to COVID and I've caught COVID. So this is the same thing that they're dealing with. I got it from being out there driving the bus. And it's like I said, this is something that they're dealing with too. And I just think it's ridiculous that management is doing this to them. We got gas prices going up, but yet you don't want to give them a raise. You got food prices going up. How are they supposed to support their family and feed their family? This is ridiculous. That's all I got to say.
Our next speaker is David Herrera. David, go ahead.
Am I being heard?
Yes, you are.
All right. Good morning. My name is David Herrera, and I've been a bus operator for the past 21 years for the district. First of all, I'd like to thank President Poe and the members of the board for the opportunity to speak today. To be honest, I had a lengthy script that I was ready to read, but after listening to yesterday's meeting, I find myself in a state of confusion with what's happening around here. I need to speak, and I want to speak on behalf of the state of the operator's contract, and I wanted to pull on the heartstrings to move the union and the district forward for a fair and positive resolution. But after being present at the past board meetings and including yesterday's, I really don't think that's the need. I applaud the board and their decision to quickly move on funding the added expense to the bridge noise issue at a tune of $450,000. I applaud the board in moving the fund of reorganization in the bus division proposal at the tune of $1.2 million. I applaud the board in developing a special recognition to the GM for his outstanding leadership this past year, all in the face of a fiscal cliff. Now I look forward to applauding this board in agreeing to a fair proposal to the brave operators of Golden Gate Transit that have been out here since day one of this pandemic, risking their lives, not having the opportunity to safely work from home or remotely, having their income reduced to the point where they are seeing what I've been calling the Great Resignation. I mean, never before have I seen an exodus from a family-oriented great company. So I need you to ask yourselves and ask staff, why are we resigning and retiring at an alarming rate? Are they even asked why in their exit interview? Listen, we all know Albert Einstein's quote of the definition of insanity. And I've been here long enough, and I have way too many gray hairs and witnessing the staffing issues that keep rearing this ugly head. We need to get off this merry-go-round and do what has been said and what they said needs to be done. So I look forward to hearing on your closed-door conversations on the misinformation that is being distributed and if there could be an agreement on a fair labor contract for the bus operators. And I quite frankly, we are expecting it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Herrera.
Our next speaker is Brian McVeigh. Brian McVeigh. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
I would like to remind everybody to please keep your devices muted if you've spoken. Our next speaker is Brian McVeigh. Okay, let's circle back. Our next speaker is Dave Davis.
Yes, hello. Am I being heard?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I'm a 12-year bus operator with the district, and for the record, I'd like to say that I've never been on workman's comp in my life, and I've never taken advantage of FEMLA benefits, luckily. So I don't exactly fit the pattern of the driver that the district loves to portray as people who don't show up to work. I show up to work. My shift is 12 and a half hours long, meaning leaving here in dark and returning home at dark. Probably something that administrators don't really comprehend at all, the idea of working a 12 and a half hour day every day. At 62 years old, I hope to retire in a few years and take advantage of a pension that I was promised when I started here, hopefully. And Mr. Mulligan, through the years, has probably ridden on my bus, I figure, six or eight times, and seen the conditions that we drive through, the gridlock in the financial district, the gridlock through Marin, road rage, Uber drivers, bicyclists, and pedestrians not paying attention to what the bus is doing. So how he can possibly devalue and disrespect the job that we do so easily is just beyond me. I implored Mr. Mulligan to do the right thing, and I know that you know what that is. And I insist that, I would like to ask the board of directors to insist that Mr. Mulligan do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
I'd like to check to see if Brian McVeigh is on the line. Brian, you may have your device muted on your side. Brian McVeigh. Okay, we'll move on. Stephanie St. Oni. Stephanie?
Hi, my name is Stephanie.
Go ahead,
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
I'm an 11-year veteran operator with local ATU, or ATU Local 265. I am standing in solidarity with ATU 1575 and fighting for a fair contract. I honestly believe you guys need to go back to the table and start over. The attendance policy, that's a joke. The fact that they don't get a raise, that's a joke. I think you guys need to reconsider and start over. None of what you have offered is anything that is beneficial to these guys. They have fought through this whole pandemic. I have fought through this whole pandemic. I don't think anyone on that board can even understand what we deal on a daily basis. Please reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. St. Denis.
Our next speaker is Josie Dalwal. Josie?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. My name is Josie Dhaliwal. I am a member of the People's Transit Alliance. I was shocked to hear that the Golden Gate management was going to give themselves a 3% raise while offering frontline workers 0%. It reflects to me that the management experienced a very different pandemic than frontline workers. While management might have called these workers heroes, their actions are reflecting that they have no sense of the sacrifices these workers made daily to do this work. This 0% pay increase reflects that management actually thinks workers are expendable. It reflects a public agency that is not committed to truly serving the public. It honestly reflects corruption, using public funds for personal gains. The public is the workers and riders who use the transit system daily. It is for them that the agency should be striving to create a system that serves their heart's desires and needs. Transit workers are the bedrock of our transit system. It doesn't run without them. Please respect them and all the work that they do by offering them a decent contract. I'm sure you can find a way to do this. That 3% management raise is just one idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall.
Our next speaker is Jack Buckhorn. Jack?
Yes, good morning, President Parr, district directors and staff. My name is Jack Buckhorn. I'm the executive director of the North Bay Labor Council. And boy, seems like the holidays aren't so merry for the transit workers these days. A 0% increase, years without a contract, a pension that is underfunded. I mean, if I were a labor trustee or any trustee on this pension, boy, that's a badge of honor, right? To be on one of the most endangered pension plans in the nation. I appreciate a 7.5% increase to the pension. That's a good start, but you can't leave the workers without a raise after what they've gone through. The last inflation was 6.8% here in the Bay Area. It's just going to get higher. It really is insulting. I would ask that you really bargain in good faith. It's unbelievable. And then, the 3 days off this termination for unpaid days off, 3 days off in the middle of a pandemic, you want your workers to come to work sick? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So I would ask that you get back to the table, negotiate in good faith. Don't take away from these workers. I mean, 6.8% inflation is a reduction in wages. I think you all know that. I know you know it. So please, bargain in good faith. Let's get a contract for these workers. They deserve it, and it's time to do it now. So thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Buckhorn.
Our next speaker is Lisa Reed. Lisa, please go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Reed. I have been with Golden Gate Transit as a bus operator for the last 4 years. I want to first acknowledge my coworker that was assaulted a few weeks ago. I can't imagine how my coworker and their family is feeling. I can't imagine the phone call and how they felt receiving a phone call that their family member was hurt. That is just one of the few things that we deal with as an operator. Besides the conditions, the weather, we are also a security guard, ensuring that the people that are self-medicating for the issues that they are not getting help with are acting accordingly, standing behind us, sitting behind us while we're trying to operate a bus. I'm not here to give you statistics and numbers. I'm coming to you as a wife and as a parent. Coming home daily, worried about COVID and my 7 and 9-year-old, but still coming to work because this is what I signed up to do. I just want everyone to please realize that we are not a number. We are human beings, and we would really implore that we get treated as such. I do appreciate the efforts and things that we have done positive, and let's keep that vibe going, and please make things better for everyone involved. Thank you very much, and happy holidays.
Thank you, Ms. Reed.
Our next speaker is Brandy Donaldson. Brandy, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Brandy Donaldson. Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Perfect. I'm with ATU 192. I'm calling in solidarity with my brothers and sisters at ATU 1575 to urge the board to please urge the district to sit down and negotiate a fair contract for them. To be without a contract during this pandemic is, I can't even imagine what the drivers have gone through, as well as to be slapped in the face with a 0% increase in wages, as well as an attendance policy that basically would mean all employees are fired. We are in the middle of a global pandemic where we need to make sure our health and the health of our family and passengers and coworkers is our number one priority. Everyone's life matters. And to sit here and have a 3 occurrence attendance policy in a year is just unthinkable. And to hear that management's receiving raises while the actual members of the district who are providing the services and work are receiving nothing. Not only should they be receiving an increase in wages, but as well they should be receiving hazard pay. We have worked these last 2 years in the most hazardous conditions possible. We have transported members of society to their essential jobs, doctors, nurses, grocery workers. We have made sure the Bay Area has continued moving during this whole pandemic, and for you to reward these heroes with slaps in the face, I don't know how any of you could just sit there and think that this is acceptable at all. So please urge the district to sit down and negotiate a fair contract for all members of ATU 1575. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donaldson.
Our next speaker is Bob Allen. Bob, please go ahead.
Thank you, members of the Board District. Bob Allen with Urban Habitat and the Voices for Public Transportation Coalition. I want to thank the workers at Golden Gate Transit and throughout the Bay Area who kept people moving during this pandemic and put their lives literally at risk. And I think it's really, really odious and and really tone deaf for the management to give themselves raises and propose a 0% raise at this time. And it's also part of a larger kind of process in this country that's happened over the years. It's not just about corporations doing this to workers. If you want to know why the Bay Area is one of the most unequal places in the world, this is what we do to workers, right? We cut their wages. We structurally mismanage their pension programs, which is one of the only ways to have long-term economic security in this country. But I hope you recognize this decision as part of a larger process that you're responsible for in this position. You chose to be on these boards, to be in these positions. You are part of a process of hollowing out the working class in the United States, of hollowing out people's economic security and creating an incredibly unequal place, an unjust place for people to live. And this is one way you can stem the tide of that, by doing the right thing for workers who put themselves on the line today. There's also a larger process happening in this country, which I think is long overdue, which is that workers have said enough, and they're not just going to take this and watch their hard-working gains be just eroded by decisions like this. And the other thing that's really exciting, and I think overdue, is that riders and everyday residents around the Bay Area and places around the country are in solidarity with the workers. And we're not just going to watch as public officials make these kind of decisions. So you know what the right thing to do is. Fix your pension system, offer your workers a meaningful salary increase, especially in the face of giving yourselves increases, or giving management increases rather, and ask yourself, would you want your family to have that attendance policy? Would you want your child to work under that attendance policy? I don't think you would want that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Our next speaker is John Holden. John, go ahead.
Hello, good morning. My name is John Holden, and I'm a bus operator for 4 years at Golden Gate Transit. I'm also a San Francisco native, and I'd like to say to the new director, Anne Marie Conroy, thank you for doing service for the district. I think you're an amazing addition to the board, and I wish you would run for mayor. Anyway, so I picked up garbage for many decades in San Francisco, proud union member, Teamster official, and I'm here to comment on the death threat letter that was posted in the transit workplace, threatening 10 workers who will be off work, as all are off work, are not going to have a good holiday. And somebody felt that emboldened enough to post this a couple months after the VTA massacre in our workplace. I'm here to talk about the reorg, where it's adding a senior director of operations at a cost of $307,480. This is outrageous because over the years, we have heard from administration assistants coming out on their breaks that Mona Babauta is never back there. We've heard from all the people that have retired, senior management, that she's always away on conferences or never on site. We have heard from the new acting transportation director, who these positions have been acting for almost a year and a half now, that, you know, she has to leave by 2 o'clock to pick up her kid, and she comes at 11, leaves at 2, twice a week. Now you're adding a senior director of operations. It makes no sense. I mean, if the board wants, you know, Mona to gallivant around the country, go to conferences instead of taking care of business, then so be it. But
Mr. Holt,
it's really hard to thank you.
Continue. Would you please wind up your remarks? Thank you.
This timing, we've heard from Mr. Mulligan how travel is down in the corridor, how we're going to do a measured response.
I'm sorry. This is President Park.
Thank you.
Who is this speaking now? Is this still Mr. Holden?
You.
I'm sorry,
yes.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Wilfred Owens. Wilfred?
Good morning to the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District directors, and especially and most affectionately to my organized labor peers. I'm sitting here very much aware of the atrocities in progress, and that would be the negotiating situation. In the urgency of that emergency, I'm thinking that those of us, or our administration in Washington, our local representatives, Nancy Pelosi, and those highly favored by organized labor, I don't think they would be very happy, being that they are the utmost champions of subsidies to the benefit of the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District. I don't think that those who go out of their way to make sure that we have enough in subsidies would be very happy with the way my local is being treated, okay? I just heard about the district walking away from the negotiating table. I want to remind you that each and every member of that seniority roster, they wake up at inhumane hours. They struggle to get the proper rest, the legal rest, to operate Golden Gate Transit safely. Now, please, if you have any idea what the stress level is, okay, when you haven't or you have to struggle for the rest you need to accomplish your stress level, okay? These people, including myself, we put our best foot forward in behalf of the district because we basically have an affection and an appreciation for the work that we do and an affection for each other, okay? I would like to see genuine respect.
Thank you, Ms. Could you please wrap up
genuine
your comments?
Genuine respect directed toward our negotiating committee, and let's move these negotiations forward to a positive end. Thank you very much. Have a good morning and Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays.
Brian McVeigh, I'd like to see if Brian McVeigh is on the line. Please use star to unmute yourself if you're muted. Brian McVeigh. Okay. Our last speaker this morning is David Pilpel. David? Oh, is that
Can you
Brian?
hear me okay?
Yes, I can, David.
Good
Go
morning,
ahead.
David.
Great, thanks. Hi, thanks. So 4 brief items. On the consent calendar, page 33 at the end for the in memoriams, Nancy Hellman Bechtel is misspelled. It's Bechle, not Tel. Otherwise, great minutes. Thanks to Thomas, who seems to be doing a fine job on that. Next, thank you to retiring Deputy General Manager, Bridge Division, Steve Miller, who's also done a fine job for the district for many years in several capacities. I wish him well, and welcome to Dave Rivera in his new role that I heard about yesterday. Next, I support the 4 proposed ATU pension plan actions to reduce the ADC, and in comparing the 4 pension plans from page 3 of the report from November, I note that the ATU plan is only at 72% funded. As of the last actuarial valuation, it would be great to have a policy that the other 3 plans should be no worse than CalPERS. So if CalPERS is at 72%, then I think the goal should be to bring up the ATU plan to at least 72% funded. Doesn't need to happen within 1 year, but there should be a plan to get there with various actions, employer, employee, pension board actions. And finally, thanks very much to Board President Barbara Parr for her unbelievable public service during an incredibly difficult term. Thank you, Director President Parr. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Pilpel.
Hi, I was trying to get added to the speakers list.
President Parr, it seems to be somebody who's jumped on and would like to speak, but we are at the end of our list.
Sorry, I was not aware of what the process was to...
May I have your name, sir, please?
Sure. Name is Max Bell Alper. I'm the Executive Director of North Bay Jobs with Justice.
Max, you'll be our last speaker today. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you. I appreciate you making the time.
And looking for that. And is that cool?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think there's some background noise there.
Someone has their mute button off. Would you please try to put it back on if it's you?
Would you allow me to speak
Thank
at the
you.
end of this?
Of course. Go ahead. We've been limiting people to 2 minutes, please.
Sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time and letting me speak here. My name is Max Bell Alper. I'm the Executive Director of North Bay Jobs with Justice. We're a coalition of over 30 organizations in Marin, Sonoma, and Napa counties of different labor and community organizations that are really concerned around economic, racial, and climate justice. And we're here today to lend our voice and support the drivers of ATU Local 1575. As you've heard from a number of drivers, this is a very, very difficult time. And so I won't repeat, the many issues that they're dealing with in terms of their wages and the pension and the attendance policy, but just to let you know that we as people in the community are really on the side of the drivers here and are watching and are concerned.
So we're on the
And I hope that we'll be able to reach a conclusion here that really recognizes the amazing service that drivers have put in, especially during the pandemic. And if the drivers decide to take action, we'll be there with them as the community to have their back. And we hope that we can all celebrate together this holiday season for what the drivers deserve. And we'll be there whatever the drivers need. Thank you very much, and hope you have a good day and happy holidays and a joyous new year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bellarper. Justine, am I hearing that that's the end of public comment?
Just say that's the end of it.
All right, thank you. I'm hearing lots of feedback. Thank you very much for all of you that tuned in and talked to us today, especially those of you who were able to come forth with the issues with some respect. I always am feeling regretful that people in this day and age feel that they need to resort to name calling and personal attacks. With that, General Manager Mulligan, do you have any comments or statements?
Yes, if I may, I'd like to briefly respond to all the speakers. First off, I'd like to thank all the speakers, and particularly our employees and their counterparts from other transit agencies in the Bay Area, and the advocates for the hardworking men and women of labor. The Bridge District agrees that all of our employees deserve a wage increase, and they all deserve a healthy pension when they retire after many years of service. Please know that ATU Local 1575 is one of 25 collective bargaining agreements here at the Bridge District. In the last couple of months, 23 of these collective bargaining units have received a pay raise. In the last couple of months, 75% of our employees have received pay raises, and we are at the negotiating table, and the Bridge District has offered in writing wage increases to ATU Local 1575. So I think it's important for all the speakers to know that we are giving raises to employees, and we are at the table. The Bridge District has not walked away from the negotiating table. If you have heard that, please know that's not accurate. Recently, the ATU requested mediation, and at the last mediation session, the mediator did say to each party individually, we're done for the day. When we heard that, we did not think that the other party walked away from the table, nor did we disseminate such information. With respect to the pension plan, employees at the Bridge District participate in one of 4 different pension plans based on their collective bargaining agreement. The bus drivers are in a separate pension plan from all other employees. And I encourage all of the speakers today to please stay on the meeting and listen to agenda item 10A. I believe one of the speakers, Mr. Lindsay, said that our pension plan is unique and there's no other pension plan like that in California. And that is correct in a couple of regards. One is, it's the only pension plan in California that does not correlate the contributions received on behalf of an employee and the earnings of those contributions to the likely pension payment for that employee. Most pension plans, all pension plans, adjust the pension payment based on how old or young you are when you retire and whether or not you have a spouse and whether or not you want that spouse to receive your pension when you retire. So there's a lot of differences in this pension plan. Last month, we did a presentation that talked about all the pension plans of the district. That report is available online. Today, you'll hear a presentation on some things that would go a long ways towards solving this pension if they were enacted by the pension plan trustees. The district recognizes that it'll also take additional contributions, and we look forward to continuing to negotiate in good faith. Please know that while we negotiate in good faith, we do not negotiate in public. So we will have, in addition to an item on the pension in open session, we will brief the full board in closed session with respect to the status of the ongoing negotiations. Thank you, Madam President, for giving me the opportunity to address all the speakers, and I want to thank them again for all their words.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. This concludes the public comments to the board. Madam Secretary, would you please continue to the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. I'm going to move on to item number 5, which is to approve a consent calendar, including approval of minutes from our November committee and board meetings, as well as ratification of previous actions by our auditor controller. Thank you, Mr. Pilpel. I'll fix Nancy's spelling of her last name, so I'll take care of that. And the consent calendar is located on page 5 to 39 of your packet, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Before we take our vote, are there any questions, comments, or concerns from board members on the consent calendar? Hearing none, may I have a motion on this item?
I will move it. Director.
Thank you, Director. May I have a
I'll
second?
second it.
Thank
I'll
you.
second it. Great.
Thank you, Director Cochran. Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We're voting on item number 5, and I'm going to start with Director Arnold,
Yes.
Director Conroy,
Aye.
Director Fredericks,
Yes.
Director Garbarino,
Yes.
Director Giudice,
Yes.
Director Grosboll,
Yes.
Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill,
Yes.
Director Maston,
Aye.
Director Melgar,
Aye.
Director Rabbit,
Aye.
Director Rodoni,
Aye.
Director Snyder,
Aye.
Director Stephanie,
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran,
Yes.
First Vice President Theriault,
Yes.
and President Parr.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That item passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please introduce the next item.
Item 6A is the report of the General Manager, and that report can be found on page 41. Dennis Mulligan, go ahead with your report.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. President Parr, members of the board, members of the public. My written report is before you. I would like to mention a couple of items. For starters, I'm pleased to announce that on Monday, earlier this week, December 13th, the Bridge District started a new ferry route. So we now operate direct ferry service for the first time ever between San Francisco Ferry Terminal and Angel Island. This service started on Monday. We offer 5 round trips per day currently, weekdays, and 4 round trips on weekends, which mirrors the prior service that was operated by Blue and Gold. If a patron pays with a Clipper card, it is cheaper to ride our service than it was to ride Blue and Gold. Plus, if they use a Clipper card, they get discounts when they ride Muni or our service. They get transfer discounts. I'd like to thank California State Parks and Blue and Gold for their great effort to bring us to this very important milestone. It's important that there be ferry service between San Francisco and Angel Island because of its historic nature, its recreational opportunities, and it's a fabulous venue for school children out there. Also on Monday, we have sped up our ferry service between Tiburon in San Francisco and Sausalito in San Francisco. We removed what our passengers refer to as the dreaded triangle, and we now operate direct service. Additionally, on Monday, we renumbered several bus routes to remove any potential confusion. For example, Muni has a Route 30 bus that, after going through Chinatown, runs along Chestnut Street. We have a Route 30 bus that ran a block away on Lombard. And if you weren't an insider who rode transit all the time, if you're a visitor, it could be confusing. You might get on the wrong bus. So in order to avoid that, starting on Monday, we renumbered many of our bus routes. So there is no more duplication of numbers with Muni. And so I wanted to thank our staff for facilitating that. A couple other things going on. One important one that I mentioned the last couple months is that before the district can spend money that we receive from the Federal Transit Administration, the United States Department of Labor has to certify that we have not infringed upon the collective bargaining rights of our employees. That's commonly referred to as a 13C certification. The Amalgamated Transit Union had filed litigation when the California Public Employees Pension Reform Act of 2013 passed. There's been several rounds of litigation, but all that we thought was settled until October 28th, when the USDOL, in response to ATU objections, reversed their prior determination, and they said that PEPR would violate 13C protections. Why is that a concern? Is because the Metropolitan Transportation Commission just a few days earlier had allocated $43.5 million of American Rescue Plan funds to the Bridge District. That money is currently on hold pending the resolution of this matter. This is a matter that affects all transit agencies across California, and it affects FTA operating funds as well as capital funds. The American Rescue Plan funds are important to us because that's how we make our payroll for our bus and ferry divisions. In response to that, on November 19th, the state of California filed a motion to stay a preliminary injunction seeking court intervention to postpone USDOL's actions. I was pleased to announce that we were one of 6 agencies that provided a declaration that the state used in support of their motion. In response to that, on December 3rd, USDOL and ATU filed briefs in opposition to the state's motion. And then on December 10th, the state which is last Friday, filed a reply in support of their motion. The parties are meeting today in court making their arguments, and hopefully there'll be a ruling as soon as Monday on the motion to stay. That doesn't solve the broader issue. All that does is it deals with whether or not the DOL can withhold certification based on the new determination pending the court's resolving the broader issue. The one encouraging thing is that the DOL and the ATU are basically asking the court to change several prior decisions they made with no new facts and no new law. That having been said, until this matter is resolved, this vital American Rescue Plan money that we received in the second tranche from MTC is at risk. With respect to the impacts of COVID on our operations, travel is still down in the corridor. Bridge traffic has inched up a little bit, and we continue to restore bus and ferry service incrementally in a measured way as we see a return of customers traveling in the corridor. Of note, though, while there's more travel in the corridor, the commute period is still significantly down, whether by bridge, bus, or by boat. With respect to revenues for last week, revenues were down $800,000. That's revenues from tolls and from fares as compared to the same week pre-pandemic. And that's actually an encouraging trend. In the worst days of the pandemic, we were down over $3 million per week in terms of revenues coming in. Also in my report, I have a copy of a link to the Bay Area Council and MTC's monthly update on their research with respect to the reopening of downtown San Francisco and employers bringing people back to the office. And so we're continuing to track those trends as we plan to add service back. I now come to the part of my report where I talk about recognitions, and I wish to announce with some sadness, but happiness for him, the retirement of Steve Miller as our Deputy General Manager for the Bridge Division. Steve initially joined the Bridge District as a mechanic in our bus division. He is a veteran, received his degree from Sonoma State at night and worked his way up through the ranks. And then several years ago was selected to be the Bridge Manager. And Steve has done a phenomenal job as our Bridge Manager and upgrading, modernizing, changing how we do things. And I wish him a long and happy retirement, and I will miss him. I also wish to announce a 25-year service award to Alfonso Beasley. He works in our marketing department, and he's the go-to person when we need to get information out to our customers, participating in various fairs and events publicly, distributing signage and fair media. And so he's a wonderful long-term employee, and we're pleased that he's been with us for 20 years. With respect to the Employee of the Month, I'm pleased to announce that after reviewing nominations submitted by the district employees, the Employee of the Month of the committee, which is employees, selected ironworker Enzo Falk as the Employee of the Month for December 2021. He's recognized for his professionalism and dedicated work. He completes projects quickly and without hesitation. He's done a variety of exemplary things that are documented in the report, but the key thing is his attitude. He's known for always willing to step up and when extra help is needed. He joined us as an iron worker in August of 2017. Before working for us, he worked for SME Steel Contractors, for JC Metal Specialists Incorporated, and he was an iron worker for Herrick Corporation. He was born in Hong Kong, and he's currently attending City College of San Francisco, and he's won many awards. He lives with his wife and their children in Daly City, and he's just a fabulous employee, so our hats off to him. That concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Are there questions or comments or concerns from board members related to Dennis's report? All right, if not, Madam Secretary, thank you, Madam Secretary. Would you please introduce the next item? And thank you, Dennis.
Thank you. Item 6B is the report of the attorney, and this report can be found on page 51. And Attorney Kim Manoulias is on the line to present his report. Kim, go ahead.
Thanks, Amaret. Good morning, everybody. My written report's before you, as Amaret said. I'm happy to take any questions, and also wanted to let you know that we have 3 closed sessions today. First, a closed session with legal counsel for existing litigation, Government Code 54956.9a, with regard to the Saliani, Kendrick, and Montgomery cases as listed on the agenda. Second, we have a conference with our labor negotiator under Government Code Section 7.6, with regard to our negotiations with employee organizations, the Union Coalition, the ATU, Local 1575. And finally, we have a conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9D2, report of Hanson Bridget with regard to one potential case, and that's with Shimmick Construction Company, Inc., Danny's Construction Company, LLC, a joint venture. But again, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Manolius. Are there any questions related to the attorney's report? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please introduce the next item?
Item 6C is the report of the chief engineer. The engineer's report was presented to the B&O committee yesterday as item 5 on page 17 of the B&O committee meeting packet. Ms. Bauer-Feuerbusch, please go ahead with your report.
Thank you, Amoret. Madam President, members of the board, my written report is before you, and I just want to mention the status of the suicide deterrent project. The work is ongoing in 2 shifts. However, the contractor is spending a lot of time right now to finalize the work plans for the installation of the net in locations such as Suspension Bridge, South Approach Viaduct, and also finalizing certain work plans for the North Anchorage housing, where we will be installing a tall, 12-foot tall vertical railing. And also the work continues on the replacement of the traveler rails, as well as on the North Approach Viaduct. The contractor has to strengthen certain locations on the floor beams in order to hang the net. So the supports will be strong enough to carry added loads. Excuse me. So with this, I'll be happy to answer any question the board members may have for me.
All right, thank you. And we also appreciate your presentation to the Building and Operating Committee yesterday, and I assume you'll talk a little bit about it today. Are there any questions related to the Chief Engineer's report? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the agenda?
Thank you. I'm going to move on to item 8, since there are no other reports under item 7. And item 8A is the report of the Building and Operating Committee meeting of Thursday, December 16th. And that recommendation from the meeting can be found on page 55 of your packet.
Thank you. And colleagues, you should know that action on item 8A1 before us today was discussed in further detail at yesterday's Building and Operating Committee before being presented to the full board for action. Ava provided the board with an update on the staff's proposal to reduce the wind-induced sound on the bridge. So with that said, Chair Theriault, please begin your committee's report to the board.
Thank you, Madam President. Building Operating Committee brings one item to the board for its action today. We recommend that the board authorize agenda item number 8A1 to approve actions relative to reducing wind-induced sound emanated by the Golden Gate Suspension Bridge West railing as follows. 1, approve installation of 1/16 inch thick tapered U-shaped aluminum clips with 1/16 inch thick vibration damping material inserts on both edges of the pickets of the new Western Bridge railing for the full length of the main span of the suspension bridge as described in the staff report. 2, approve the addition of a suspension bridge sound reduction project in the fiscal year 2021-2022 Bridge Division operating budget with the estimated cost of $450,000. And 3, authorize the filing of a notice of exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, for the suspension bridge sound reduction project with the understanding that sufficient funds are available in the Bridge Division operating budget as detailed in the staff report. And I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion on the item. May I have a second?
I will second it. Director Frederick.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any board members with questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We're voting on item 8A1 with a first and a second. We're going to start with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Aye. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yeah.
Director Giudice,
Yes.
Director Grosboll,
Yes.
Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill,
Yes.
Director Maston,
Aye.
Director Melgar,
Aye.
Director Rabbit,
Aye.
Director Rodoni,
Aye.
Director Snyder,
Aye.
Director Stephanie,
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran,
Yes.
First Vice President Tirio,
Yes.
and President Parr.
Aye.
Thank you. You have 16 ayes.
The item is adopted. Chair Tirio, do you have anything further to report?
Madam President, that's all for my report.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item on the agenda?
We're going to move on to item 8B, and that's the report of the Rules Policy and Industrial Relations Committee meeting of Thursday, December 16th. That recommendation for this meeting can be found on page 57 of your packet.
Thank you. I'd like to note again that the action on item 8B1 before us today was a result of a robust discussion at yesterday's Rules, Policy, and Industrial Committee meeting before it's being presented today for the full board. I wanted to thank the directors for bringing forth such thoughtful and respectful dialogue yesterday. Staff also confirmed at yesterday's meeting that no represented positions are part of this reorganization. Chair Arnold, would you please begin your committee's report to the board?
Yes, thank you, President Parr, and I agree with you that we had an excellent conversation with my colleagues, asking great questions. As I mentioned yesterday, making plans early is a prudent path for business as we try to recover from the effects of the pandemic. That said, Rules, Policy, and Industrial Relations Committee is recommending authorization of board agenda item number 8B1 to approve amendments to the district's bus division table of organization that reflect two new departments. Number one, Department of Transit Operations, and number two, Department of Business Operations. Establishing 3 new operational units within the Department of Transit Operations, consisting of safety and training, transportation and fleet facilities, and establishing 3 new operational units within the Department of Business Operations, consisting of business operation, data analytics, and project management and schedules and service development, with the understanding that the proposed changes will result in the addition of 11 new positions, elimination of 6 existing positions, and retitling 1 current position as detailed in the staff report for a analyzed fiscal impact of $1.2 million, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion. May I have a second, please?
Second, Hill.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board members on this item?
Madam President, Director Tirio.
Yes, go ahead, Director Tirio.
Yeah, thank you. I know we discussed this at length yesterday, so that's just a quick remark. I supported it yesterday. I will support it today, but none of this works without an agreement with the drivers.
All right. Are there other comments or questions?
Yeah, this is Dick
Director
Russell.
Maston. Yeah.
All right. I heard Director Grossball and then Director Maston. Director Grossball, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Well, I did voice my opposition yesterday with quite a few reasons, and I certainly felt the timing of doing this at a time when we still have no agreement with the bus drivers was problematic. And while I respect and understand that now, and I'm hoping the Labor Committee this morning did approve it, that there is an increase, my concern is that there was no increase until very recently. So the fact that we're adding a budget of $1.2 million, I believe, additional money is very troublesome to me. When a 3% increase is probably no more than $500,000 or $600,000. But aside from that, I'm just troubled that at this stage in time, with the financial problems we have, And with everything else going on, that we would be adding this kind of expense to our budget, I just don't think it's good timing. As I said yesterday, I would have preferred that this be postponed. They're behind us, hopefully. I just think the timing of adding this kind of expense to our budget is very problematic. So I will vote no again today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for those comments, Director Grossville. Director Maston, did you have comments or questions?
Yes, as I expressed yesterday, I believe the reorganization is appropriate. However, until our ARP and PEPRA funding issue, along with our negotiations with the ATU, are settled, I think the timing is inappropriate, and I too will vote no.
All right, thank you. Are there other comments or questions from board members? All right,
President
Madam
Barr,
Secretary.
this is
Oh,
Dennis
I'm sorry.
Rodoni.
Yes.
Director Rodoni.
Director, of course.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I attended the meeting yesterday and had some questions. I too will vote no today. I'm just uncomfortable with the uncertainty around revenues and the timing of this, and had preferred it be delayed for a month or two, but thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. Are there other comments or questions?
Yes, Director Hill.
Yes, go ahead, Director Hill.
Like I did yesterday, I concur with Director Theriault. I won't repeat exactly, but I have the same belief. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there other comments or questions? Again, thank you for the discussion yesterday. Madam Secretary, I believe we're ready for a roll call vote.
Thank you. We're voting on item 8B1 with a first from Director Arnold and a second from Director Hill, starting with Director Arnold.
Yeah, aye.
Aye. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosboll.
No.
Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Maston.
No.
Director Melgar.
No.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Aye. Director Rodoni.
No.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
No.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First President Theriault.
Yes.
Yes. And President Parr.
Aye.
Aye. Let me do my quick count. 1, 2, 3. And we have 11 ayes, 5 noes. Motion carries.
Passes. Yes, thank you very much. That item is adopted. Thank you again for your questions and discussions. Chair Arnold, do you have anything further to report?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chair Arnold. Madam Secretary, would you please continue to the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. Item number 8C is the report of the Finance Auditing Committee meeting of Thursday, December 16th, 2021. The recommendations for this meeting can be found on page 59 of your packet.
Thank you. The action items before us today were discussed at yesterday's Finance Auditing meeting before being presented today to the full board for action. I'd encourage directors to reach out to staff if they are interested in learning more about the toll collection and parking fee collections. The technology behind the scenes is complex and staff does a great job trying to explain it to us. Chair Rabbit, would you please begin your committee's report to the board?
Thank you, President Parr. The Finance Auditing Committee met yesterday and is recommending approval of Board Agenda Item 8C1 to authorize an extension to the contract number 2018-B-05, consultants to provide technical support for toll operations through December 2023. Authorization of additional funding for contract number 2018-B-05 in the amount of $2.6 million and an increase in the capital project number 1525, whole system upgrade by an additional $250,000 for consultant services as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion on the item. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board members on this item? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. Voting on item 8C1 with the first and second, starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosball.
Yes.
Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Tirio.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 16 ayes.
Thank you. The item is adopted. Chair Rapp, please continue your report.
Finance Auditing Committee is also recommending authorization of Board Agenda Item 8C2 to execute the third amendment to the Parking Services Agreement with Park Mobile USA Incorporated and Park Mobile Group BV relative to contract number 2014-FT-19, collection of parking fees at Larkspur Ferry Terminal in the amount of $100,000 for maintenance and administration of the existing system for the collection of parking fees at the Larkspur Ferry Terminal through December 31st, 2022, as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion on the item. May I have a second?
I'll second it. Director Fredericks.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board members on this item? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Voting on item 8C2 with the first and second, Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosball.
Yes.
Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Tirio.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
Thank you. You have 16 ayes.
Thank you. The item is adopted. Chair Rabbit, do you have anything further to report?
Madam President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chair Rabbit. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item on the agenda?
Item 8D is the report of the Governmental Affairs and Public Relations Committee meeting of this morning. The recommendation for this meeting can be found on page 61 of your packet.
Thank you. Vice Chair Hill, we'd like to thank you for filling in for Chair Cochran at this morning's meeting. And Vice Chair Hill, go ahead and begin your committee's report to the board.
Thank you, President Parr. The Governmental Affairs and Public Relations Committee met this morning and is recommending authorization of Board Agenda Item number 8D1 to approve the implementation of the district's 2022 legislative platform as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion on the item. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And again, this morning there was quite a discussion about a number of the different legislative actions, and that was so appreciated. Are there any comments or concerns from the board members on this item? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We're voting item 8D1 with the first and second. Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosboll. Director Grosboll?
Aye.
Thank you. Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill?
Yes.
Director Maston?
Aye.
Director Melgar?
Aye.
Director Rabbit?
Aye.
Director Rodoni?
Aye.
Director Snyder?
Aye.
Director Stephanie?
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran?
Yes.
First Vice President Tirio?
Yes.
And President Parr?
Aye.
Thank you. You have 16 ayes.
Thank you. The item is adopted. Vice Chair Hill, do you have anything further to report?
Madam Chair, that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, would you please continue on to the next item?
There are no addresses to the board under agenda item 9, and we're going to move on to item number 10, which is special order of business. We have a few items there, so we're going to start with agenda item number 10A, which is an informational report on the Amalgamated Transit Union Pension Plan's actuarially determined contribution shortfall, and that begins on page 63 of your packet. It's a pretty big report, so just wanted to point out where it starts. The report provides follow-up information responding to discussion from board agenda item 10D from the board meeting of November 19th. So Dennis, go ahead and introduce your item.
Thank you very much, Madam President, members of the board, and members of the public who I hope are still listening. Last month, staff made a presentation to the board at its November 19th meeting, providing information on all 4 pension plans that district employees participate in, with some additional information about the HU pension plan. As a follow-up to that, there's questions raised about the actuarial analysis that have been performed by the actuary expert for the pension trustees and the pension trust board. And so in response to that, we have an informational report here, and it's voluminous because we actually attached many of the actuarial reports so they're available publicly. This pension plan does not make its documents available publicly. It has a history of not being very transparent, so we're pleased that we're able to shine a light on it here today. You'll hear a presentation in a moment, but I just want to highlight that this pension plan has unique benefit features that give away money. This pension plan is unlike any other pension that we are aware of that we can find any place, where there is not a correlation between the contributions received on behalf of an employee and the earnings of those contributions to the ultimate pension payout. So the trustees have studied this topic and they've had an actuarial analysis done on it. And so I want to turn this over to Liz Mason to walk you through the results of this actuarial analysis, and then I'll offer a few words in closing. Liz?
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Madam President, Madam Secretary, and board members. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, this is President Parr. Let me just interject here. There's one person on the line that still has some background noise. So I'd like to encourage all of you, but this is an important report, to double check your mute button.
Thank you. Just a couple of things before I go through the report. The report has 4 exhibits attached to it. Exhibit number 1 is the 2021 Actuarial Valuation Report for the ATU plan, and that report shows the plan's projected benefit liabilities, the current funding level, and other financial information about the plan. In the past, the plan's actuary was asked by the Retirement Board of Trustees to look at certain benefit features of the plan to see whether changing them would improve the plan's funding status, and if so, by how much. Exhibit 2 to the report is an analysis that the actuary prepared in 2019 about those plan changes, and Exhibit 3 is another analysis by the actuary that's from 2014. Where this report includes information from those exhibits, the source of the information is noted with the relevant page numbers. And Exhibit 4 is a one-page chart that summarizes the numbers that are provided in the report about the combined effects of these potential changes to the plan. I also just want to note that the information from the plan's actuary that's used in this report is not up to date, but it does provide some insight into the effects that certain changes to the plan would have on the plan's funding status and the ADC. And I know that this material can be pretty dense, so please stop me at any time if you have questions. This report uses the phrase ADC shortfall in explaining how the plan's actuary has estimated that certain benefit changes would affect the plan's funding level. The ADC is a contribution rate that's determined by the actuary, and it's expressed as a percentage of wages. And basically, it's the total contribution rate that, when combined with the other assumptions that the actuary makes about future benefit liabilities and investment returns, would lead to full funding of the plan. According to the 2021 valuation report, there's a difference, or shortfall, between the bargain contribution rates and the ADC of about 6.13%. And this is summarized in the chart on page 64 of the meeting packet. Based on the information prepared by the plan's actuary that's shown in Exhibit 2 and Exhibit 3, and the information in the plan's 2021 valuation report, the plan's current ADC shortfall could be made up by making certain benefit changes that are described in this report. As explained in the report that we presented at the November 19th meeting, the Retirement Board is authorized under the plan document and the trust agreement to make benefit changes under the plan, taking into account things like the plan's funding status and the estimated actuarial impact of the change. That report also explained that under the California Supreme Court's ruling in the Acera case last year, benefit changes that are made for a permissible purpose, like to ensure the solvency of the plan or to prevent pension spiking, could be applied to current employees without violating the California vested rights rule. On page 65 of the meeting packet, the first change that the actuary looked at is eliminating the plan's subsidized 50% joint and survivor annuity. Like most pension plans, the ATU plan pays retirees a monthly benefit. When employees retire, their benefit amount is calculated based on what's called a single life annuity, which just means that monthly benefit payments go to the retiree until they die. But if the retiree is married and wants to provide benefit payments to their spouse after they die, the retiree can elect what's called a joint and survivor annuity. This creates additional liability for the plan because when the retiree dies, the benefit payments don't stop. So under most pension plans, the single life benefit amount is reduced for married retirees to take into account this additional liability, that the plan is going to be paying benefits out over 2 lifetimes instead of just one. But the ATU plan doesn't reduce benefits for married retirees, so the retiree gets the full benefit amount until they die, and then the spouse gets half that amount until the spouse dies. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. According to the actuary's analysis, if the married retiree's benefit were adjusted like most pension plans do, that would reduce the ADC shortfall by 1.66%, assuming that everything else about the plan stayed the same. The actuary also estimated how much this change would affect the plan's ADC if every employee who was eligible to retire under the plan decided to retire before the change took effect. And in that case, the 1.66% would be reduced to about 0.68%. The second change that the plan's actuary looked at on pages 65 and 66 is changing the early retirement age from 50 to 52 and eliminating the plan's early retirement subsidy. Most pension plans have a reduction in benefit amounts if employees retire before what's considered the normal retirement age under the plan, since employees who retire early start receiving benefit payments sooner. But under the ATU plan, there's no reduction in benefits for employees who retire early, and employees can retire starting at age 50 with 25 years of service. The actuary's analysis shows that eliminating the early retirement subsidy and raising the earliest age for retirement to 52 instead of 50 would reduce the ADC shortfall by about 4.95%. That amount would be reduced to about 4.11% if all employees who were eligible to retire under the plan decided to retire before the change took effect. The third change that the actuary looked at on page 66 is using a 3-year average salary for calculating retirement benefits instead of a 1-year period. For newer employees who are subject to a 3-year period has to be, so using the 3-year period for everyone would make that consistent for all employees. This would also address the spiking issue with employees who work an unusually high amount of hours in the last year before they plan to retire. According to the actuary's analysis, this change would reduce the ADC shortfall by about 2.46%. And that number would be reduced to about 1.08% if all employees who were eligible to retire did so before the change took effect. The last change that the actuary looked at on pages 66 and 67 is having all employees contribute 50% of the so-called normal cost of their benefits. Normal cost is the term that actuaries use to describe the present value of the plan benefits that are earned in 1 year. For PEPRA employees, their contribution rate has to be 50% of the normal cost. So that contribution amount is determined by the plan's actuary. For non-PEPRA employees, the employee contribution rate is set by the bargaining parties. According to the actuary's analysis, if the contribution rate for all employees was based on 50% of the normal cost, that would reduce the ADC shortfall by about 1.16%. The chart in Exhibit 4, which is on page 141 of the meeting packet, shows the combined effects on the plan's ADC shortfall of the 4 changes that are outlined in the report. As I've been describing, when the actuary analyzed the first 3 of these plan changes, they gave 2 estimates of the effect of each change. One that assumed everything else about the plan stayed the same, and another estimate that assumed that all employees who are eligible to retire would do so before the change took effect. The second set of estimates showed less of an effect and so resulted in a smaller reduction of the ADC shortfall. Exhibit 4 shows the range of the combined effects of these 4 plan changes as reducing the ADC shortfall by somewhere between 7.03 and 10.23%. And the chart at the end of the report on page 67 uses just the more conservative estimates of reducing the ADC shortfall by about 7.03%. As that chart shows, based on the information in the 2021 valuation report and the actuary's more conservative estimates, making the 4 changes to the plan described in this report would eliminate the ADC shortfall and actually result in an ADC excess. There are 2 other sections of the report that have some additional related information that the board asked for, but I can stop here to see if there are any questions about the information I've covered so far.
This is Dennis. Maybe I'll just reiterate a couple of things. The key thing is that the plan is woefully underfunded today. And today it gives away pension benefits. Just to reemphasize the example, if a driver has 30 years of service driving and they retire at 50 years old, they get the exact same pension as the driver who retires when they're 60 years old, even though that 50-year-old operator will live 10 years longer in all likelihood and be a much greater drain on the pension. That's not fair to the 60-year-old driver, that younger person is going to get a lot more total pension payments. Similarly, if one driver is single and they retire, and another driver has a spouse who's 30 years younger than them, today that ATU pension plan gives them both the same pension, even though the married driver says, I want my spouse to get it after I'm gone. And so that single person is basically subsidizing the married person with a much younger spouse. The driver who's older when they retire is subsidizing the younger driver who gets the same benefit pension. And so it's really not fair to the plan participants to allow these inequities to continue, in addition to greatly contributing to the financial shortcomings of the plan. So the actuary has done the work. Kudos to the pension trustees for authorizing the actuary to do the work. It did cost money to have that work done. They spent the money. So we're glad that we had the opportunity to share with you that this pension plan, which is not operated by the district, it's a separate independent trust, has in front of it information that would allow it to either partially or fully solve the current funding shortfall. We recognize that at various junctures, including now, they may need contributions in addition to some of these changes, and we look forward to the parties at the bargaining table talking about contributions, but we look forward to the pension trustees to continue to reflect upon the information that's put in front of them by their actuary and reflect upon their duty as a fiduciary and take appropriate action. Thank you.
Madam President, Director Terrio.
Yes, I think if you have questions, go ahead. Dennis, why don't you recognize them? You have the chart there. I mean, you have the board that tells who needs to talk. Go ahead, Director Terrio.
All right. Yeah, Director Terrio here. I did note on page 67, and I thank the our attorneys for presenting this particular version of things. That is the version that takes the most conservative tack. The one that says anyone who is capable of retiring and the moment change is made actually retires, which would produce the least benefit to the plan. I do note that number may actually shift a little more, and our counsel has noted that some of this information is old. In some cases, it's older. For example, the impact ADC shortfall from using 3-year average pay, which you'll see about 2/3 of the way down that chart on page 67. That was from 2014 when nobody was covered by PEPRA. Since then, anyone who's once PEPRA took effect, anyone who was hired under PEPRA already has the 3-year average pay rule going on with regard to their retirement. And I don't know what proportion of the district's drivers that represents at this point. It is growing more and more substantial as we hire and as others retire. Likewise, the numbers above and below that, from eliminating the joint and survivor subsidy, from changing the early retirement age from 50 to 52 and removing the early retirement subsidy, and the impact of the ADC shortfall from the increase in non-PEPRA employee contribution rate. That shifts when you take into account the time span, a little bit shorter, between the 2019 Chiron report and the present in terms of the change proportions of PEPRA versus non-PEPRA drivers in the plan. So those numbers probably shift downward somewhat. I couldn't tell you by how much, and I don't think anyone here could without undergoing an another actuarial analysis. I continue to be nervous and cowed by the effect of the California vested rights rule on some of the changes proposed. That was in large part why I thought that the numbers presented at our last meeting were off. I don't yet know the effect of the recent decision by the California Supreme Court that was mentioned on this particular plan and these particular changes. I do look forward to education by both the district's council and by our recently hired attorneys at the Board of Trustees in this matter. Thank you.
If I may, Madam President, this is Dennis. I'd like to thank Director Theriault for highlighting that the information before you is a snapshot in time with respect to the actuarial analysis, and the actual percentages may change. The key question for the trustees is, are they willing to embrace change, whether it solves the problem by 7% or 6%? All those things are positives, but Director Theriault is correct that with the passage of time, the percentages may have changed a little bit. With respect to the Acera case, which was the California State Supreme Court ruling last year, staff looks forward to providing detailed information to the district trustees, but we think it's also prudent to do a high-level overview at a future board meeting, just so everyone is aware and on the same page with respect to the recent action by the California State Supreme Court as it pertains to what's referred to as the California rule. Thank you.
All right. Liz, do you have more information for us, or would you like us to ask more questions?
I just had a couple other things. Oh, I'm sorry. Are there more questions?
Oh, yeah, I had a quick question. What is the current funding of the plan, and what's the ratio of retirees to actives?
It's about 52% funded, and I believe the ratio of retirees to actives is well over, there's many, many more retirees than actives. So it's in a challenging spot. So that's why additional.
At some place in the report, there's a number. I can't put my fingers on it right now, but at some place in those reports, there's a number of actives versus retirees.
I think it's on page 78 of the meeting packet. There's a chart that shows the number of active participants, the number of terminated vested participants, and retirees.
Right, and it may not be accurate as of today, but that'll give us some sort of an indication. And you're correct, it looks like it is on page 60.
So it's 433 retirees, 250 actives, so a total of 683 plan participants.
I'm sorry, it was page 78 of the district numbered pages. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it just it still baffles me that it's. I mean, because the other like MEBA and those guys, that they are private, considered private plans, but this isn't considered a private plan. Is that correct? Like MEBA and IBUs.
That's correct. This plan is not subject to the Taft-Hartley or ERISA, the federal requirements. So the IBU and MEBA plans, which are some of our employees are in, are subject to federal law, so that when they're in an unfunded state, they're required to make changes both in benefits and in contributions to solve their problem. The ATU plan is not subject to that. Arguably, morally it is, but legally it is not. So it has not made changes that were automatically or imposed by the trustees on those other two plans when they're in tough spots. And those plans are in a much better shape today because of those prior actions.
All right, thank you.
So we have 250 bus drivers. Is that right?
That's approximately. The number's probably gone down since this was developed based on attrition. We have had people retiring.
But it seems like I've been around a few pension plans, and those ratios are disturbing. And is there any other way to fold our? We've merged plans before too. Is there any way to merge a plan and pick up the difference and pay the employee contribution rates and make up somehow, whether it's a CalPERS or something like that?
It's a great question, Director Snyder. The plan is a separate standalone plan. If the ATU wanted to propose that at the bargaining table, it's something we could certainly entertain. Certainly, I know in the private sector side, when union pension plans that are small get in trouble, they generally merge them to lift them up. And that is one solution to help this plan financially. But what you heard today is that that's not necessary to help this if it just mirrors those other plans. And if it was assumed by other plans, they would impose those changes. But if they make the changes on their own with some modest contribution changes, this plan could be in a good place.
I hope so. It seems like it's. I understand the. Because we do the same thing, and the ones I'm aware of, where you do the actuarial calculation. If a husband and wife are 5 years apart, and they want to do an annuity over 2 years, that they make those actuarial changes. And this is. I applaud all these moves today, but it also seems like we're kind of cutting around the edges, and I know we're gonna at some point have to put more up for it. And I don't know. I think that's something we should look at and consider, whether it's some kind of merger or. I just very concerned about the ratio and for us in the private sector, there's this would be in a plan that's deeply in the red. The plan that I'm in right now is in the yellow, and we're increasing every year. But this, kind of looking at these numbers, they're decreasing, and I just think maybe we can think outside the box, possibly.
This is President Parr, and I, as a former negotiator, I negotiated with someone who now is an officer at PERS, and I broached that subject to him a couple months ago, whether or not a larger trust would be willing to take us over. And he said, talk to people and see. We would certainly have to make up any kind of shortfall if we went into a larger trust. They wouldn't take all of our debts without us having some sort of an agreement that we would help them not get in the same place we are. So that's just a comment on that. The other comment that I have is when we look at the participants, receiving benefits, and I have a feeling that this was done as part of the actuarial report, but it doesn't seem to call out the number that are single spouses. Is that the way to say it? In other words, it says that there are 422 participants receiving benefits. And I assume that it was looked at how many of those are employees versus how many are spouses when they came up with what the difference would be if that were one of the benefits that we renegotiated. Is that clear? Did I make myself clear on that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
your comments about the CalPERS folks, I think I had the same thoughts, and I've talked to a couple of folks there too. And but you know, and I know the actuarial stuff gets very complicated, and you got to look at all these tables and stuff. But again, appreciate your comments on your CalPERS and reaching out and talking to some folks.
It was casual. It wasn't formal.
Yeah, mine too.
Does Liz have anything else?
I actually just wanted to cover a couple of other things on page 68. The report also responds to questions that the board raised at the November 19th meeting about whether the ATU plan could be eligible for any financial relief under the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, which was one of the COVID stimulus bills that passed earlier this year. And the short answer to that is no, because the ARPA funding assistance and relief applies only to plans in the private sector that are subject to a federal law called ERISA. And since the ATU plan only covers employees of a public agency, it's not subject to ERISA, so that financial assistance won't be available to the plan. And finally, on pages 68 and 69, there are charts that are showing the historical contributions by the district to the ATU plan and to the 3 other pension plans for district employees over the past 14 years. So I just wanted to point those out as well.
Okay, this is President Parr. I have one more question, and this is a history lesson I'd like. I've heard rumors that there was a time when there were no district contributions, maybe no employee contributions made to the trust because we were following what PERS did, and by now it's probably 8 or 10 years old. Perhaps it's what's reflected in this chart on page 68, but I'd like just a verbal clarification or a verbal history lesson, if any of you have that, because I think that's made a significant impact as we've gone forward. There's not a thing we can do about it right now, but I think it's an important part of the history of the trust.
Page 69 shows the contributions we've made for a long period of time, 14 years. If you go back even further, there was a period of time about 20 years ago where the ATU and the district negotiated cessation of contributions for a short period of time. But as part of that negotiation, supplemental pension payments were created and provided. So the money went to the pension plan for supplemental pension payments, and it also went to wages. But that goes way back in time, as you can see from the chart on page 69. With respect to employee contributions, that's shown on page 68, that up until the March of 2015, the employees in this plan were not making contributions. It was all employer contributions.
Okay, thank you for that background. Are there any other questions or comments from board members? Hearing none. Liz, do you still have comments that you would like us to
No,
hear?
that's it for me. Thank you very much, and happy holidays, everybody.
Okay. And how about you, Dennis? Do you have more information you'd like?
I do not. I thank the board for their patience in understanding this, and we'll bring additional information next month on the California rule.
Great. Thank you so much for the informative presentation. I think it was helpful to all of us. That concludes the discussion on this item, and no action is required. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. Item 10B, that was first introduced in October, will be a recurring item on the agenda to allow us to continue remote meetings, but every 30 days we need to adopt findings in accordance with Assembly Bill 361 that proclaims state of emergency continues to impact the ability for this board to meet safely in person. My brief staff report's on page 143 of your packet, and I respectfully request the board's approval on this item with the understanding that the board will consider it again at its meeting in January of 2022.
All right, thank you. Are there any board members with questions or comments on item 10B? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, on item 10B?
I will move it. Director
Thank you. I have a
Second,
motion. All right.
Second, Director
Motion.
Giudice.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I believe we need a roll call vote on this.
We do, thank you. We're voting on item 10B with the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, starting with Director Arnold. Director Arnold, are you still there? Okay, we'll go to Director Conroy.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosboll. Director Grosboll has dropped off the line. Director Hernandez. Is absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Mastin.
Aye.
Aye. Director Melgar. Director Melgar is no longer on the line as well. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Aye. Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Tirio.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 13 ayes.
That motion passes. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 10C, which is the discussion and possible action to terminate the suspension of board procedural rules and policies for COVID-19 related emergency actions. Mr. Mulligan's brief staff report's on page 145. He's available to answer any questions the board may have.
All right, thank you. Before we take a vote, are there any board members with questions or comments? Hearing none, it appears that we should not be terminating the suspension of board procedural rules and policies at this time. May I have a motion to revisit the matter at the next regular board meeting on January 28th?
Madam President, Director Terrio.
Yes.
I move that we continue consideration of this item until special order of business at the next regular meeting of the board.
And I'll
Thank you very much. Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. This is item 10C with a first and a second, starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosboll. Absent. Director Hill. I'm sorry, Director
Yes.
Hernandez is also absent. Director Hill, thank you for your yes. Director Mastin.
Aye.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Tirio.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
All right, thank you. That's 14 ayes.
All right, thank you. The item is adopted. At this time, I'd like to ask the board's indulgence to delay agenda items number 10D, 10E, and 10F at this time so that we can take up the closed session items under number 11, unfinished business. This will allow us to ceremoniously pass the gavel at the end of the meeting and close out the business portion of the meeting. Are there any objections from directors to postponing those three items until after closed session? Hearing no objections, I want to thank everyone for being patient during this meeting. We'll be placing the public on hold and we'll reconnect the call after closed session discussion. Mr. Manolius, would you please take us into closed session?
Yes, President Parr, thanks very much. At this time, the board will go into closed session for 3 items that are listed on the agenda. First, with regard to a conference of legal counsel regarding existing litigation, as listed on the agenda for the Saliani, Kendrick, and Montgomery cases. Second, for a conference with its labor negotiator, as listed on the agenda, for discussion with negotiations concerning the Union Coalition and ATU Local 1575. And finally, with regard to conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation as listed on the agenda, one potential case with Shimmick Construction Corp., Danny's Construction Company, LLC, a joint venture.
All right, thank you. We're going to put the public line on hold. Thank you, everyone. We're back in open session.
All right, thank you very much. Now, Kim, would you please provide your closed session report out?
Thank you, President Parr. Excuse me. The board met in closed session for a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, the Saliani and Kendrick and Montgomery matters listed on the agenda. The board provided the negotiator with good advice going forward as to how to handle the matter. Similarly, with regard to the conference with the labor negotiator, same thing. The board provided advice and counsel as to how to proceed. And with regard to the third matter for anticipated litigation with one potential case with Shimmick, the board again provided appropriate counsel as to how to move forward.
Thank you very much. We'll now return to the agenda and take up item 10D to authorize a resolution of appreciation to Dennis Mulligan in recognition of his leadership during the pandemic.
This conference has reached its maximum duration and will end in 1 minute.
Are we in trouble, Amoret?
We might be in trouble because we've gone on for so long, but hang on 1 second. Let me see. If that's the case, then I'm going to ask you all to basically call back in if that's possible, okay? Because one of the provisions of AB 361 is that we do have to pause the meeting and bring everyone back. So if you wouldn't mind, if everybody could just, I'll end this meeting and if you could call back because we've gone on for so long today.
You want us to officially hang up and call back, or are you going to check on something?
Actually, I'd officially like you to do that just so we don't have any more errors that come up just in case.
All right, will do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in a minute.
Soon.
You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You have 13 members back on the line, so you can restart. But
what a wonder! Yeah.
Oh, hang on 1 second.
All right.
Well, let me make sure the public line is back with us.
Ready?
Not quite, almost.
Did we bring in lunch?
I can send everyone virtual donuts.
Coffee, I think, is what we need. Coffee and donuts.
That's right.
Donut bowls.
That's right.
I'm on my second pot.
I was going to say gluten organic. How's that? Is that better? All right, are we ready?
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Please give us a moment while we get resituated, and I'd like to remind you to keep your devices muted. Thank you.
All right.
Off.
Is it my turn?
That's it. We're back online.
All right, thank you. Now we'll return to the agenda and take up item 10D to authorize a resolution of appreciation to Dennis Mulligan in recognition of his leadership during the pandemic. As you'll recall, when the review of officers of the District Advisory Committee met last month, one of the approved recommendations was to recognize the general manager for his leadership during such an unprecedented time, and I think this morning has shown that. On behalf of the Officer Evaluation Committee, I worked with staff to put together a resolution of appreciation, and we wanted to have our appreciation on record at this board meeting by asking you to approve the resolution. It's lengthy, and I will, to save us some time, make sure that it's in its entirety, it's available in the minutes, or you can request it from the secretary. But I do want to highlight the specifics. It reads, with the usual whereases and therefores, whereas through the pandemic, the district's general manager, Dennis Mulligan, has demonstrated steadfast and courageous leadership of the district, including, but not limited to, taking difficult steps to implement emergency measures to ensure that the Golden Gate Bridge remained open as a safe public transportation corridor, fulfilling its mission. 2, keeping the board informed about operations, revenue, service projects, and COVID regulations, always keeping the health and safety of all employees at the core. 3, making necessary and difficult service reductions in response to a sudden and precipitous reduction, I think we've heard that word a lot, in demand, and closely monitoring demand to allow increasing service when possible. 4, crafting innovative solutions to the countless day-to-day crises that have confronted and continue to confront the district at every turn that no one, not even he, ever imagined the district would face. 5, showing exemplary and consistent regional leadership to secure federal funding again and again to protect the district and its employees. 6, leading and inspiring staff over the long haul of the pandemic and displaying boundless energy, enthusiasm, and optimism that infected the entire district family. And 7, supporting managers, departments, and employees as they develop seamless and effective remote working relationships during this pandemic response. 8, instilling all who work at the district a sense of pride and belonging, even under the most difficult of circumstances. And last but not least, always putting the interests of the district first and staying ever true to the district's mission. Therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Directors thanks and honors its General Manager, Dennis Mulligan, for his dedication to the district and its mission, his continuing and seemingly boundless energy and resolve, as well as his incredibly inspired leadership and stewardship during the unimaginable difficult circumstances of the pandemic. And that though the district still faces numerous challenges in the months ahead, the board is very confident with General Manager Mulligan at the helm. We thank him deeply. And before we take a vote, are there any board members who would like to say a few words? And I will give Dennis an opportunity too, but you get to go first.
This is Patty, if I may. I'm just looking forward to those roaring 20s, and I thank you truly, Dennis.
This is Director Fredericks.
Sure. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I too would like to add a special thanks to Dennis Mulligan. And here is how I can tell you I perceive him. He's a leader, a director who keeps the messages articulate and all the moving parts articulated.
Nice. Are there others?
This is Director Arnold. I would just say amen to the resolution. It's beautifully written, and it encapsulates all of the wonderful things that Dennis did in an atmosphere that none of us could have believed. So well done.
Okay, this is Director Cochran. I concur with everything that's been said. Dennis has done a fabulous job for us, and especially in these tough times, as we've all seen. So, Dennis, congratulations.
Yeah, this is Director Tudice.
Go ahead.
I just, in the last few meetings that I've been attending, I just have been struck with the compassion that Dennis has for staff and for all the employees at the GGB district, and that was something that was not said, so I wanted to point that out.
Thank you for that.
Director Hill.
You?
Sorry?
Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to mention on 1Q about it. I really appreciate the fact that he will call me on things that come up and are coming up, and he's always very, very even with it. and it's informational, and I really appreciate that kind of individual dedication to keeping us informed, even off the record. So thank you very much.
Great.
Madam President,
All right.
Director Rabbit.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in the 47 years that I have known Dennis, this particular year is just a stellar one in terms of his leadership. Dennis is a consummate professional. He is the master of knowing all the aspects of the business, the district. And in this particular year with COVID, I mean, they call it a novel coronavirus. No one knew what was going to happen. And I can tell you and I know some of us have been involved in many organizations, it was tough there for a while to get accurate information, to really communicate that to employees. Very much appreciate the fact that Dennis has put out that weekly update going forward. It's just been great communication, great leadership, and totally what you would expect from Dennis. Thanks.
Thank you. Dennis, would you like to say before we see if we get a motion? Oh, Mike, do I hear you?
Yeah, I was going to pipe up one last thing. Yeah, it appears that you and I, Dennis, will be working more closely over the next couple of years. I want to say it has been a pleasure working with you, and I look forward to working with you even more closely. So thank you.
Great. I just need to say, as president, you couldn't find a better A-team, and the A-team led by Dennis. I echo all of your comments. I was always in the loop. I was always informed. I don't know when he eats and sleeps, but whenever you call to him, he's on it immediately. So thank you, Dennis. Would you like to defend yourself?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to thank the board. I want to thank you for all the kind words today. But more importantly, I want to thank you for your trust in me and your entire team here during the pandemic, because we could not have done what we've done absent that. And so I just wanted to thank you all tremendously for that. And I especially want to thank those of you that serve on multiple boards, because sometimes you're in settings where at other boards, people advocated that your agencies block our efforts, RIP and the bridge districts, to get funding. And I know that that was awkward for some of you at times. And I just appreciate all of you letting me do my job as I chased one-time federal COVID relief money for the district, in spite of the challenges and in spite of what you may have heard elsewhere. So thank you all. I'm honored and humbled to serve as your general manager.
Thank you. May I have a motion on item 10D?
So moved.
Which is the,
Also moved. Bill. I'll second.
All right. I hear 13 motions and 13 seconds. Would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. We're voting item 10D with a first and second and up to 13, I believe. So starting with Director Arnold.
I'm very happy to say aye.
Thank you. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice.
Enthusiastically, yes.
Thank you. Director Grosboll is absent. Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Milgar.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni is absent. Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie is absent. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Tirio.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That vote is unanimous. You have 13 ayes.
Good. Thank you, colleagues, for all of your support. Next, we have item 10E to authorize a resolution of appreciation to Alice Fredericks in recognition of her dedicated service as director on our board. For those of you who may not be aware, this is Alice's last meeting on our board as she ends her service on December 31st, 2021. Alice has served for 10 years on our board since she was appointed on January 2012, representing the Marin County Council of Mayors and Council members. Simultaneously, she actively supports the mission and employees of the bridge as well. She has shown us how to balance her leadership responsibilities as a Marin County appointee and representative from the town of Tiburon, as well as the Golden Gate Bridge. Her skills in that balance were affirmed with the expansion of the Golden Gate Ferry commute service to Tiburon recently. From my point of view, Alice has graciously agreed to be on or chair committees that are important to our mission: labor, finance, transportation, D&O, and most recently, a Golden Gate Bridge appointee to the Golden Gate Transit Amalgamated Retirement Plans Board of Trustees, aka the Trust. Her response has always been a gracious and positive, whatever it takes to move us toward our mission. Her questions are thoughtful and often require responses which move the process forward positively. Her integrity is unquestioned, and she clearly reads and integrates the volumes of data that has come to her in the past 10 years. Her dry sense of humor has been shared with us regularly. She always has a quote or a quick story to fit every occasion, and today was no exception. So personally, and of course on behalf of the Board of Directors, it's been a pleasure serving with you, and we wish you the best. And I assume there are other board members that would like to say something to Alice, and then we'll have a motion to approve the resolution.
Alice, this is Director Cochran. We're certainly going to miss you. And now that we've been meeting far, I was hoping that we would all be back together again. And I know you always have problems getting those barrettes out of your hair, so I always had to remind you to take them out. Alice, we'll miss you, and don't forget us.
Thank you, Jerry.
This is Patty. May I comment?
Of course.
Oh, thank you. As has previously been stated, Alice, you have handled every single responsibility and duty, task, every vote, every committee meeting with such grace and aplomb, and not only diplomacy, but have treated every speaker with the utmost of respect and kindness. And I can only hope that you continue to be a part, obviously, of our community and mentor all of the rest of us who just aspire to be like Alice.
Thank you. Are there others?
Go ahead.
Director Terrio.
Mm-hmm.
Alice, I have particularly appreciated your sense of humor. And I think your husband is a doctor, and maybe he can figure out how to give wit injections to other members of the board on your behalf, since you no longer be there to provide some of the wit that I've depended on. So thank you for everything, and thank you for your service.
And you know, if you look at Alice's vita on our board site, she also has a JD degree, and is it psychiatry that you're part of, Alice?
I am a psychologist with a background in cardiovascular biopsychology, stress management, and cardiovascular disease.
Exactly.
This is Director. Yes, this is Director Arnold.
Okay.
I've known Alice for many years. We have served on TAM together, and now on the Golden Gate Bridge. I will tell you a story that I think is very pertinent to who Alice is. I was with several people that were discussing Alice, and one person said, well, you know, she's really deceptive, because if you look at her, you just see this, you know, darling grandmother, and then you get in a conversation with her, and you realize that this woman has a laser thin she understands what the issue is way beyond many people that are there and that have to vote on it. And she's just, come forward and says it, and all of a sudden this person that was talking said that, then you're just speechless because you realize this woman's a genius. And so it's true. And the thing that makes it palatable is that she is so funny. So Alice, I'm just, sad that I can't sit next to you for the next year and hear some of your remarks. And I want to thank you. I think you have done so much behind the scenes in the various committees that you sit on that I think that's going to be well remembered in the years to come. And so thank you. And I'm glad that you're still on the city council. I'm glad we can still see each other at the different meetings in Marin County. And I just wish you the very, very best.
May I take that as a motion?
Yes, you may.
All right. Do I have a second? Alice, I will let you say a few words as soon as we get the motion together here.
Can I say something? This is Bert.
Have a second?
Yeah. Dallas,
did you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to say from the time I came in, your composure, your organization, and your patience, particularly with me as I stumbled my way through years of the proper protocol and everything else, was just excellent. And I really held you up as the example of a good manager and a good leader through the board. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your comments. Alice, would you like to say a few words?
Well, I did have a 9.5-minute speech prepared, but I can shorten it to about 1.5 minutes. Okay. I kicked off my service to the board with the 75th anniversary celebration that was organized by a former chair, Janet Riley, which was spectacular. And now I bracket my last vote as a member of this board to adopt a resolution honoring our executive director, Dennis Mulligan, the district manager. I've deeply appreciated the professional staff, the administrative staff, Amaret, my colleagues on the board President Pari, who keeps everything moving, all while finessing the difficulties that COVID presents. I leave you with this thought. As a citizen, I am humbled to think what the district and my thoughtful colleagues on the board have made it possible for me to take credit for as an elected official. My thanks personally and on behalf of the public who benefits. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you, Alice. You're very gracious, and we will miss you. Thank you, colleagues, for your support of the resolution. Amaret, we have a first and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Will do. Thank you. We're voting on item 10E now. We'll start with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Aye. Director Conroy is absent. Director Fredericks.
Abstain.
Abstain. Thank you. Director, come on, you don't want to vote for yourself? Director Garbarino.
With a huge thank you, with a huge heartfelt thank you, and yes.
Okay, thank you. Director Giudice.
Yes, best of luck.
Thank you. Director Grosboll is absent. Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Director Mastin.
Aye, and I want to thank her for her leadership and for her sense of humor. Thank you.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni is absent. Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie is absent. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Interior.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
Thank you. We have 11 ayes and
Thank
one
you.
abstention.
Well, we'll make that 12. Well, that's probably true. She probably should abstain because she may not want to leave. Okay. Say that out loud. I'm sorry. It's 1 o'clock. We now have reached the item 10F, which is a report of the chair of the nomination of officers of the Board of Directors for 22-23, and that chair is Judy Arnold. Chair Arnold, would you please begin your committee's report?
I will. Will you just give me a minute to log in again?
Sure. And while she's logging in, I'm told that after this we will have a time for public comments because the actual names were not listed on the agenda originally. So there'll be a quick public comment period if there's anyone waiting.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. Thank you, Judy.
Good afternoon. I'm Judy Arnold, and I serve as chair for the nomination of officers of the Board of Directors Advisory Committee. Our committee met on November 30th, 2021, and I bring forth to this board the recommendations of the committee for the coming year. The committee recommends the first Vice President, Michael Theriault of San Francisco, assume the presidency of the Board of Directors on January 1st, 2022. First Vice President Theriault has held his current office since October 1st, 2019. He has served on this Board of Directors since March 11th, 2011, and is appointed as an at-large member by the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. The committee also recommends that Second Vice President Gerald Cochran of Del Norte assume the office of First Vice President on January 1st, 2022. Second Vice President Cochran has held his current office since October 1st, 2019. He has served on this Board of Directors since January 27th, 2004, and is appointed by the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors. Finally, the committee recommends that Director Bert Hill of San Francisco assume the office of Second Vice President on January 1st, 2022. Director Hill has been on the Board of Directors since March 27th, 2015, and is appointed as an at-large member by the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. These nominations are consistent with this board's practice of alternating the presidency between San Francisco directors and directors from the northern counties of Marin, Sonoma, Napa, Mendocino, and Del Norte. I want to thank you to my fellow committee members, and I so move the slate of officers.
Thank you, Chair Arnold. The advisory committee is recommending Theriault as president, Gerald Cochran first vice president, and Bert Hill as second vice president. I have a motion. May I have a second, please?
Second, by Maston.
All right. Are there any questions, comments from board members related to this recommendation? Hearing none, before we take our vote, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item?
Thanks for 1 second. I'm going to check to see if anyone's still on the line with us and might want to comment on this item.
All right.
Thank you, President Parr and board members. We have 2 speakers today that would like to speak under public comment for this item. So in a second, I'm going to connect the line.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you. And I'm going to introduce John Holden. John, go ahead and join us and go ahead and begin.
Yes, hi. My name's John Holden. I'm a bus operator at the Golden Gate Transit. I would just like to say thank you to Alice Fredericks for her service to the ATU pension board. I've listened over the years, and she's very compassionate and knowledgeable and brings a sense of fiscal responsibility. So thank you so much, Director Fredericks, for that. And I'd also like to make a comment about General Manager Dennis Mulligan. A lot of the times he gets a lot of flack on these public calls, but the resolution supporting his leadership during this COVID time is important, and he has done an excellent job navigating through this COVID times. And I'm really pleased to see that Director Terrio is now going to take over the presidency of the board. His labor background and leadership will be much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Holden.
Thanks. Our next speaker is going to be David Pilpel. David, are you still on the line with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
We sure can. Go ahead.
Great. I support the proposed slate of officers. President Parr isn't going to be that far away and will still serve on the board for her participation, advice, and counsel. I support continuing this somewhat obscure tradition of the North and the South officers alternating. I hope that Director Rabbitt is still around, because I think he's next up as the North officer, perhaps coming soon. But in any event, once you're on the board, and regardless of what office you're holding, obviously you serve the entire district, all of the public, all of the employees, all of the people who use the bridge facilities, and look to your leadership for keeping the doors open and keeping the place running. And so I hope that we will all be working together next year and in future years to continue moving through tough times. So thanks for that, listening.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. We're going to start with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Aye. Director Conroy. Is absent. Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yeah.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosball. Is absent. Director Hernandez. Is absent. Director Hill.
Absent, abstain for myself, and yes for the other two.
Thank you. Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar.
Aye.
Aye. Director Rabbitt.
Aye.
Aye. Director Rodoni. Absent. Director Snyder.
Aye.
Aye. Director Stephanie. Absent. Second Vice President Cochran.
I'll do the same as Bert. I'll vote for Mike and Bert and abstain on my own. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. First Vice President Terrio.
And I'll follow suit and abstain for myself and vote yes on Cochran and Hill.
Thank you. And President Parr.
And I get to avoid the awkwardness, and I'll vote yes on all of them.
All right. Thank you. That will give us 11 ayes across the board. Let's put it this way after I sort everything out for you all.
Okay. Thank you. Our new slate of officers is adopted. The second part of this item is where I take off the presidency hat and turn things over to incoming President Michael Terrio. This is where I pass my imaginary gavel and thank everyone who has supported me during my presidency. You've done a lot of listening today, so I'll keep this short. 2 years ago, the vaccine was a medical, not social term. We've held 136 teleconference meetings, had added unseen board members, issued and rescinded layoff notices, requested and received millions in COVID money, closed long-standing legal cases, signed labor contracts, moved to CalPERS Medical, and heard our magnificent bridge sing to San Francisco. The next 2 years will be challenging as we take a hard look at how we carry out our core mission. With heartfelt thank yous to each of you for your senatorial, respectful, and honest approach to being a Golden Gate Bridge board member, my hope for the board is that respectful dialogue and questioning continues as a model to our employees and constituents of how hard decisions can be made amicably. Thank you to all of you. Keep your eye on the district's mission and visit it often. It's been my pleasure to serve you. And with that, I'm handing the meeting over to incoming President Theriault to close the meeting. Mike, it's all yours. Take it away.
Thanks, Barb. First of all, thanks to Committee Chair Arnold and to the committee for the recommendation. Thank you to the board for your vote. Thanks to Mr. Holden and Mr. Philpell for your supportive comments. Barb, you could not possibly have known when you took this position a couple of years ago what was coming at you. None of us could have. And you have handled yourself with great distinction in the intervening 2 years. You have certainly, we're not done yet, but I have to say that much of what you put together over the last 2 years in collaboration with the brilliant Amaret Ko-Wong will serve me well as I start down this term, and I thank you for that. I will be thanking you that, I'm sure, for a long while to come. I am not done with you yet, because we have I've threatened you that I will be calling you frequently, and you can count on that being the case. And I hope I don't eventually frustrate you from taking my calls by their frequency.
No.
I also want to compliment you on your graciousness, on your warmth, on your openness to other points of view. I think I tend to be a little less warm, a little less gracious in some of my dealings, being an old ironworker general foreman. But I've certainly appreciated it from you, and I will try to learn from you in that regard as I move along in this position. So I think, because we're well into the day, I will leave it at that and come back to the agenda. We have already taken care of item number 11, unfinished business. We have no new business to report. Item number 13 is communications. I'll remind my colleagues, if you want a copy of the communications, please contact the district secretary's office. Give Amaret something else to do. We have reached the end of the agenda, and there are no further items to be presented to the board. Thanks to everyone who joined us for today's meeting. And so now the thing that remains is a motion to adjourn.
This is Barb. I'd like to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
This is Bert. I'd like to second.
Okay, thank you, Director Hill.
And I just wanted to mention, Barb, thank you very much for the patience you've shown with me over the last 6 or 7 years. I know we've locked horns a couple of times, but I really appreciate the time you've given me, especially to counsel and to help understand how this organization works. So thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure, and my hope is that all of you keep doing that for each other. That's what makes the organization strong.
I would like to echo what Bert just said with heartfelt thanks. Once again, dear Barb, you are also a role model.
I should actually pause a moment and ask for other echoes. Are there other echoes?
I concur with everything that's been said.
Okay, I heard various echoes out there.
No, this is Director Snyder. I would just like to really thank Barb for, welcoming me. I know it wasn't easy when I first came in, and we had some really, really wonderful conversations, and I felt that I was heard, and I've learned so much from you, and I look forward to keep on picking your brain, and I appreciate your leadership and your insights and everything. It's a beast of a board, but and there's a lot of moving parts, and you've guided it with grace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barb, I just want to mention, thank you very much for getting your Tesla. That really appreciates it.
You're like that, Bert. I can't do a bike, so, I fell off on that one, but the Tesla is good.
Any other directors?
Director Rapp.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say what a pleasure it is to serve with Barb. I think we all know that. Her grace, her sage advice, and her positive attitude, but really kind of the collegiality of decision making, I think, as she said, is something that I really do admire. It's been a pleasure to serve both on the Golden Gate Bridge and on the Smart Board, and just want to thank her for all that. The worst thing about today, I think, is just not being in person. To say goodbye to Alice, to thank Barb in person and whatnot. But just want to say that and look forward to the year working together again. Thanks.
Barbara, this is Judy. And you are exactly what was needed in leading our board through the pandemic. You have the intelligence and the heart that kept us centered, and I want to thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
You care if I cry?
It's okay.
Yeah. It's been a long day. My oldest granddaughter graduated from college at 8:45 this morning, so I got to see the professional.
Oh.
So it's been a teary day. Thank you all.
Congratulations. I will hope that in the course of this next year, we do get to see each other's faces in person again. So I will pause another moment to see if there are any objections to our adjourning. Hearing none, we'll adjourn today's meeting in memory of Robert Joseph Dole, former U.S. Senator from Kansas, Father Anthony Sauer, former president, administrator, and teacher at St. Ignatius College Preparatory in San Francisco, and Charlotte Myers Schultz, former longstanding chief of protocol for San Francisco for 8 mayoral administrations.
Wow.
Please join me in a moment of silence. This concludes the meeting of the Board of Directors. The time is 1:29 p.m.